Could the latest body parts found near Taylor Swift's Rhode Island mansion be connected to a reported 13 other bodies discovered across New England? And is there a serial killer in the shadows of this historic Northeast region? That is the chilling thought gripping the internet right now. And for those living in those regions, the body count, it is alarming. So I'm going to break down the fears, the facts, and my take on what's going on as a 20-year crime correspondent. Let's get into it. They want justice. They want answers.
What stands out to you about his personality?
What's the family want most of all? But you were just the last person to see her.
Get out
There's
of
an
my
arrest
yard
warrant.
and leave.
You have a lot of weighty accusations. Hello, I'm Melissa with Killer Jeans. Thanks for being here. Hit subscribe if you want weekly cases and breaking headlines. Now, May 14th, on 2025, a human leg bone washed ashore in the exclusive Watch Hill neighborhood of Westerly, Rhode Island. The location, 0.3 miles, which is about just a few minutes away from Taylor Swift's estate. The remains, they were reported by a local resident. They were collected by police and then sent to the Rhode Island Medical Examiner's Office for forensic analysis. Now, this discovery comes amid a very disturbing pattern over the past 2 months. Multiple bodies have been found across Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Now, law enforcement, they've been pretty firm. They've said there is no evidence linking these cases and there is no active serial killer investigation. Then a very interesting fact resurfaced. Supposed parallels to a cold case serial killer known as the Connecticut River Valley Killer that was never solved. Now, this unidentified serial killer is believed to have murdered at least 7 women between 1978 and 1988 in rural New England. Now, the victims were young, petite women, all of them, often reportedly with troubled personal histories, all found in wooded or roadside areas. Many were strangled or sexually assaulted, and the killer was never caught. So now there are some similarities, and it is raising alarms. Authorities have reopened parts of the original Connecticut River Valley serial killer case. The sole survivor, she is Jane Borowski, and she was attacked in about 1988, and she continues to advocate for justice because she believes the answers are still out there. Now, present day, going back to those 13 bodies across New England, let's break down what's been released so far, and then I'll let you know what I think is going on. Starting off in Groton, Connecticut, which is from March of this year. A woman's remains were discovered inside a suitcase near a cemetery. 58-year-old Suzanne Wormser was killed and found dismembered in a suitcase. Her killer is said to be her roommate because he confessed to police. And reportedly, that killer roommate ended up dying in prison before facing trial. Norwalk, Connecticut, also March of this year. The body of 35-year-old Paige Fannin was found in the Norwalk River. Her personal belongings were found on the riverbank. Police have not yet determined the cause of her death, and she was reported missing a day before, but they do say that there's no obvious signs of foul play, but it's still an open investigation. New Haven, Connecticut. Also, March of this year. The decomposed body of 59-year-old Denise Leary was found in a wooded area behind Rock Creek Road. Now, she's been missing since September of last year, and the cause of death was ruled undetermined. There were no signs of foul play during her autopsy report, but this investigation is still open. Foster, Rhode Island, March of this year, the remains of 56-year-old Michelle Romano were found in a wooded area in Foster. Now, she had been missing since August. Investigators are looking into the suspicious circumstances surrounding her death. In Killingly, Connecticut in April, male remains were discovered. The skeletal remains were found on Woodward Street. It was a male, approximately 25 to 45 years old, and a guesstimate of 5'8", believed to have been deceased for about a year. Now, that area was around 2 big casinos, which they point out. Framingham, Massachusetts in April, an unidentified woman, her remains were found during a brush fire near the Massachusetts Turnpike. The remains were believed to have been there for several months with no foul play, and it was found near a major homeless encampment, which they point out because it is often significant. Springfield, Massachusetts, in April of this year, the body of Megan Meredith was found near a bike path. Now, she was pronounced dead at the scene, and the district attorney's office has already gone on the record to say that her death is being looked into as a homicide. She had been reported missing for a while before being discovered. Taunton, Massachusetts, April also of this year. In fact, it was April 25th. A body was found behind Bristol Plymouth High School. The individual was identified as 39-year-old Stephen Myers, who was known to police as being homeless. His death has not been deemed suspicious at this point, but of course, this investigation also remains open. Now, in Plymouth, Massachusetts, on March of this year, a human skull was found in a wooded area off of Route 3. The discovery was made by a hunter who initially thought the bones belonged to an animal, but then later realized that it was a human skull. And police responded, and they did confirm that the skull was the upper half of a human cranium with the jaw and the nasal area missing. That could be an important piece of information for various reasons. Skeekunk River, Pawtucket, I hope I'm saying that right, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Now, the body was discovered in Skeekunk River in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on April 20th of this year. The body was discovered by a boater. The identity has been withheld from the public right now, and this is still under investigation. Rocky Hill, Connecticut, on the same day, April 20th, a body was found in the river near Ferry Park in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. A boater also alerted authorities to this discovery as well. The body was identified as 72-year-old Mary Colasanto, a resident who had been missing and reported missing for some time. The recovery involved multiple agencies. The cause of death has not been publicly disclosed, and this is an ongoing investigation. Now, these two discoveries on the same day, it was about 2 hours away from one another via driving time. So that brings us to 13 right now. And some were ruled homicides, others under investigation or ruled without foul play. So looking at all of this, my take is that the only common denominator are remains found in wooded rural areas. Most of the bodies are women, some are older in age, but there were men among the recent dead as well with various age groups. Older in age just means that those still under investigation could end up being related to personal ailments, accidents, or even elements of their lifestyle, such as if they were homeless. From a criminology standpoint, there is a notable lack of consistency among many of these cases. There is no pattern that would logically connect the victims or suggest the work of one single killer. Typically, serial killers, they exhibit a degree of behavioral consistency, right? Whether through their victim selection, method of killing, or manner of disposing the bodies. Victims are often targeted based on very specific characteristics or vulnerabilities and access points to those individuals. And it's all a predictable pattern. In this situation, the differences between the victims are significant. Their backgrounds, the circumstances surrounding their disappearances, and even the cause of death, they all vary widely. So even when considering the possibility of crimes of opportunity, which I've covered a lot of that as a reporter, many of these stranger-on-stranger homicides, they are crimes of opportunity, but these cases just don't align with that kind of framework. So personally, I believe what we're seeing here is a very concerning uptick in the overall crime rates, compounded by increasing societal pressures and personal struggles. And although 13 deaths, it's alarming, but it's because it's also reported in a short time span. And I don't believe that we're going to find any of the dots connected to one person. Also, this may be a little unsettling to talk about, but when it comes to dismemberment and body parts being found, it could be because of wildlife and not necessarily human inflicted. And that's what we tend to see when bodies are found in these wooded, secluded areas. It's not always a human caused, but wildlife gets tangled in there somewhere. So my final take is no serial killer. Not enough commonalities, and also people need to realize many of these could ultimately be ruled accidental or lifestyle related. And for the cases ruled homicides, I don't think you're going to find any connecting dots to any of these cases. Now, when it comes to that unsolved case back in the 70s and 80s, the Connecticut River Valley serial killer, the ages were all similar in pattern. The looks of the victims, their backgrounds, even the method of murder, it was reportedly strangulation. You know, while there may be differences in the precise method used, it's all a form of different levels of strangulation. And something I think would be interesting to examine in the Northeast is the comparison of bodies being discovered in those rural areas back in 1978 when that serial killer first ignited to present day. And what was the body count in between, year after year? Is there just now a surge, or has it been consistent with the actual number of homicides each year? Now, what could be different this time is the discoveries are just all happening in a short time frame within the 2 months, which I've seen that before, especially in California, where the crime rates are the same each year, but there's an influx of when the actual crimes and murders are committed and when the discoveries are found within a short amount of time. So that can skew the misconception when really it's the same consistent number of homicides each year. That's something that I think would be interesting to know, is the numbers reported year after year, and maybe there's just an influx in a short time frame. Nonetheless, this is very alarming, very interesting. I'll be sure to follow everything coming out of the New England area. Hit subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you here again next week.